Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Coming up next on Another View, analysis and commentary about the 2012 presidential campaign. With just 4 days to go before Election Day, do you have a prediction about who our next president will be? How about the race for Senate and Congress? Our guests today have conflicting views, which means we're in for a great hour of intelligent discourse. Democratic pundit Vivian Paige is here, and so is Coby Dillard, vice chairman of the Republican Party of Norfolk. And we want to hear from you at 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Another View is next, right after this news from NPR.
Discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. I hope that you survived Hurricane Sandy relatively unscathed. And our hearts and prayers go out to the people in New Jersey and New York as they continue to recover from this devastating storm. So disasters make for strange political bedfellows. One stark example is Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey praising President Obama for the federal response to the storm. So was Sandy the October surprise? Here to debate the point and give us other political insight is Democratic political pundit Vivian Paige. Hi, Vivian.
Hi.
Glad to have you on the show. And Coby Dillard, the vice chairman of the Republican Party of Norfolk. Hi, Coby. How are you?
How are you doing?
Good. I can't wait to talk to you guys because y'all are just buzzing with political energy in this room. I wish the rest of the audience could see what is going on. So, my question, was Sandy the October surprise?
It was certainly a surprise and had a much bigger impact than what I'm sure a lot of people thought. The storm was bigger than what was predicted. It wreaked more havoc than what was predicted at the beginning. As it gathered strength, then people started realizing just what we were facing. When you start looking at the pictures and the size of that storm and how wide that storm was, $50 million in damage. We're up to about 100 lives lost. Yeah. We here in Hampton Roads were lucky to not have the damage. They did have a significant amount down in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So it was certainly, it took the focus away from the presidential campaign correctly and has it focused now on people getting back the basic necessities. When I saw the piece on Staten Island last night and how much devastation was wreaked up there, that's pretty bad when people have no water, no food, no way of moving around, no nothing. Mm-hmm. So it's not about politics now. It's about America.
Coby, before I get to you, I want to play a soundbite from Governor Chris Christie and kind of his reaction to the president's response to the storm.
I have to give the president great credit. He's been on the phone with me 3 times in the last 24 hours. He has been very attentive, and anything that I've asked for, he's gotten to me. So I thank the president publicly for that. He has done, as far as I'm concerned, a great job for New Jersey.
Is there any possibility that Governor Romney may go to New Jersey to tour some of the damage with you?
I have no idea, nor am I the least bit concerned or interested.
So, Coby, that was a couple of days ago as
right.
The storm was really coming and so forth. And Chris Christie, who was the keynote speaker at the Republican convention,
right.
Basically, did he make a switch?
He didn't make a switch. You know, as Vivian said, times like these, politics don't matter. As the governor said, you know, it doesn't matter if Mitt Romney's going to come there for a photo op, then no, he's not helpful. For Governor Christie, it's an example of a good time when the government can come in and help a situation on the ground. And it's right for Democrats, Republicans, independents to look at what the president's done and said, yes, you've done a good job here. You've done what you're supposed to do. Marshal the resources of the federal government. after a state has asked for them and unleashed them to help. And that's what I think Governor Christie is calling attention to, the fact that the president is doing what he's supposed to be doing.
But if Governor Romney becomes president, he has said that, push it back towards the states, even privatize.
He's talked about putting states in a position where they're the first line of resource, instead of immediately going to FEMA and saying, hey, we need help here. Okay, let's take some of FEMA's money, give it to the states, and see what the states can come up with as far as creating their own disaster response initiatives, and let's let the response begin there.
But isn't it kind of hard, Vivian, to respond when you're in the middle of the of the disaster?
It's almost impossible. When you look at the videos and the pictures from New Jersey and the Jersey shore and how the shore was overrun with the water, I don't know how the states could possibly, I'm not taking anything away from the state's ability to respond, other than to say that if your infrastructure is all gone, how are you going to respond? The advantage of having the response coming from the federal government is the fact that all 50 states were not inundated at the same time. So it allows the federal government to step in and provide services in places where there is no structure in place because it's all been washed away. So I think even Governor Romney has kind of backed off his idea that it's best to have FEMA resources at the state level. Not everything works by pushing it down to the states.
Coby, the Governor Romney kind of took a hit a bit on the photo op that he did provide. You want to comment on that?
It's not, for any politician, Republican, Democrat, it's not smart to walk into a disaster area and say, yes, I'm here filling the sandbags. Yes, I'm here to plug the hole in the dam. It's just not smart. The best thing is to stand back, let the situation play out, and then if you are needed to go in and actually say, hey, we're here, unfortunately, Ronald Reagan's phrase, I'm here from the government and I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Sometimes that is true. And I think President Obama has shown this is a good example of one time where the government actually did come in and help.
I think that fundamentally one of the things that people miss is the fact that there truly is a difference between governing and politics. Mm-hmm. Okay? We tend to mix the two and think they are the same, and they really aren't. Politics is about getting the opportunity to govern, whereas governing is about getting stuff done.
And when you're already the president, you're the incumbent, you also have to continue to run the country.
Well, and certainly Governor Christie from New Jersey, he is the governor of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. He absolutely has to look out for New Jersey.
It would be wrong of him to do anything but look out for the citizens that are there.
Absolutely. Beverly joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Beverly. You're on the air.
Yes. Listening to everyone talk about this tragedy of the storm is really sad, because the people are talking about what they need and what they're going through, but then I don't hear anyone thanking God that they're alive to be able to rebuild again. We have a horrific, outstanding president, so it's sad to hear that it took a tragedy like this for a governor to realize that his president is going to be there for him, because that's his job. And not only that, he's just outstanding when it comes to the people. That's why the people care about him so much. So I know President Obama is going to be president again because the people need him.
Okay, thank you so much, Beverly, for your call. Anybody want to react, Coby?
I'll react to that. We're not talking about, this is not a political moment. This is not a time for Governor Christie to stand up and give his speech that he gave at the Republican National Convention. There was a time for that. When Atlantic City is underwater, when your infrastructure is shut down, this is not the right time. And yes, we do thank God that damage in our area was not as bad, and that the loss of life in the New York, New Jersey area could have been much, much worse than it was. We thank God that it wasn't. But for anyone of any party, and this is my personal belief, anyone of any party to take a situation like this and use it as an opportunity to point fingers and say, well, you didn't do this and therefore people should vote for me and for the president if we were saying, well, you've said A, B, C, and D, and they don't work, so you should vote for me. It's just wrong. This is not a time for playing politics.
But Mayor Bloomberg of New York said climate change, and I'm endorsing President Obama.
I think that one of the things that you have to understand is that the issue of climate change has not been addressed in this campaign at all. And so Bloomberg believes in climate change. Bloomberg believes that some of the reasons for the severity of the storm was associated with climate change. And so he is responding to the fact that the president actually and the FEMA team and the government stepped in to help with this. But the bigger issue of climate change is one that has not been, despite tremendous effort on the parts of people who wanted this to be included in the conversation, it has not been on the agenda. So therefore, right here, yes, he predicated upon it. But if you read Bloomberg's endorsement, Bloomberg started out by saying he wanted to think about what kind of world he's leaving for his children. And while everyone is focused on his climate change issue, he went through a litany of issues. He went through equality. He went through, I can't even think of all the different ones. People like to focus in on the climate change portion of it. It was one paragraph in there. The thing is 19 paragraphs long. Go read the whole thing. You'll get a much better.
One of the shorter paragraphs, actually.
Yeah. And so yes, climate change is important. Yes, it's critical, but and it certainly is good that it's being discussed, but read Bloomberg and understand all the pieces of it.
I'm trying to see, should we go to line one? Okay, it just disappeared, so I guess we won't. All right, unemployment numbers came out today. So ticked up to 7.9%, 171,000 jobs created in October. Both sides are saying victory. Do you think?
Unemployment, there were additional jobs created. We also have a revision of the August numbers. There was a loss of jobs in the public sector. There was 13,000 jobs lost in the public sector. So the actual increase in jobs was higher in the private sector. The uptick in the unemployment rate itself to 7.9 from 7.8 is because more people are looking for jobs. If more people are looking for jobs, then people are feeling more bullish about the economy. They're feeling like there are opportunities out there. Do we want the unemployment rate to settle in at 7.8, 7.9? Absolutely not. But 4 years ago, we were losing 400,000 jobs a month. At least we're adding jobs, but we are certainly not adding as many as we'd like.
And Mr. Romney, or the Republican Party's perspective on that?
First of all, a historical perspective, no president since FDR has been reelected with unemployment over 7.2%. And I think that's important for people to remember. But if we look specifically at different communities across the nation and we look at what's going on in the black community, our unemployment is still disproportionately high. Now, how much can the president really do about that? Depends on who you're talking to. Some people want him to go out and absolutely name a program and say, I'm going to target black unemployment, and we're going to fix this. I understand he can't do that, but there are things within his agenda that are prohibiting employment, not just for black America, but for white America, Hispanic America, for veterans, being one myself. So we're looking at all of these different factors. And yes, unemployment, that it went up, that's a bad thing. How much can the government and the president really do about it? That's a matter of discussion. Vivian has this look like she wants to talk about that.
Well, no, I know what history teaches us, but I believe it is, and I'm trying to dig this number out of my head, but one of the swing states has the highest percentage of unemployed. It's somewhere in the 11.9% range, and I believe it's either Iowa or Ohio. I get them mixed up sometimes.
I think it's Ohio.
I think it's Ohio. Mm-hmm. And so you've got a state there that the president is poised to win with the highest unemployment in the country. So sometimes historical norms of 7.2%, for example, don't apply in this environment. We have a totally different kind of environment that we operate in.
I think
today.
people would be surprised to know that the unemployment rate is as high in Ohio. Let me get that one right.
Yeah.
In Ohio, because there's been this whole focus on the fact that jobs came back because of the car industry.
Right.
So
the jobs in Ohio. I read a statistic the other day. They said that what the stimulus package for the automakers did was to protect those jobs. That there's only been a net gain of about 400 or 500 jobs in Ohio as a result of it. But those jobs weren't lost.
Well, Coby, when we hear the Republican Party and Mitt Romney stand up and say, I'm going to bring and create 12 million jobs over the next 4 years, and then economists say that's going to happen regardless.
Elect me.
Where's the disconnect there?
What Governor Romney wants to do is focus more, and this is one of the big parts of his 5-part plan, is focusing more on small businesses and getting them back turning again. Will 12 million jobs come back to the economy? Yes, it's possible in some of the larger industries where you don't have as many small businesses that are operating. But what he's looking at is, okay, let's start from the small business perspective, the CPAs, the people who own their own practices, and let's start with those and let's get those industries going so that we can grow jobs up through the economy, not just from top-down areas such as defense, shipbuilding, things that are big in this area. Let's start with the mom-and-pop stores, get some of those growing, and then that's how we'll bring these jobs along.
Mitt Romney has a different definition of small business. I've never heard him talk about mom-and-pop stores. I've heard him talk about small businesses and talk about the fact that small businesses earning $250,000 or less, and only 3% of small businesses in this country earn $250,000 or more. I want to put that in perspective, that 97% of the small businesses and the small business owners in this country earn less than $250,000. I haven't heard Mitt Romney talk about mom and pops trying to start business. I've heard him talk about the fact that we must do something for small businesses, and that his argument for maintaining the Bush tax cuts and making sure that they are kept in place is because we don't want to hurt these small businesses that are earning $250,000. And I'm saying, okay, fine, but we're only talking about this minuscule amount. So I haven't heard him say anything about trying to grow the economy from new jobs. It is true that small businesses have suffered. Small businesses and the 97% who are below $250,000 have disproportionately suffered. There's no question about that. That's what happens. We did it. Those of us who were in business in 1980, when we saw unemployment rates go through the roof, interest at simultaneously having 18% mortgage interest rates, we remember what it was like to not have any businesses or not have any resources. But we're in a little bit different time now, and I think we're on the right track.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call. We're talking about the presidential race and some final thoughts before Election Day on this coming Tuesday. So Colin Powell comes out, Republican, and he endorses President Obama. Let's hear some tape, and then right after that, we will hear John Sununu's reaction to his endorsement.
Well, I voted for him in 2008, and I plan to stick with him in 2012. With respect to Governor Romney, I have the utmost respect for him, but as I listen to what his proposals are, especially with respect to dealing with our most significant issue, the economy, it's essentially let's cut taxes and compensate for that with other things.
But when you take a look at Colin Powell, you have to wonder whether that's an endorsement based on issues or whether he's got a slightly different reason for preferring President Obama.
What reason would that be?
Well, I think when you have somebody of your own race that you're proud of being president of the United States, I applaud Colin for standing with him.
So, Coby, how come if an African-American endorses another African-American, it's because they're African-American?
I don't have a good answer for that. My personal opinion, there are three types of, if I look back at 2008, look at the black electorate, it pretty much falls into three categories. People who did vote for Obama because of his race, which for older members of that demographic who lived through the civil rights movement, as Colin Powell did, for me, that is completely acceptable. Your experience, the things you went through.
So your point is that that's the reason why Colin Powell endorsed him again, too?
No, I don't think that's the reason why he endorsed him, but I can understand why. If I'm talking to someone who is a older African American and they say, well, I'm voting for the black man, you know what? okay, knowing what
Colin
you
Powell's
had,
not that old.
He's older than me.
Yeah, well, that's all relative.
You're older
Most
than me.
people are older than you.
Okay, let's not get into that discussion. Okay, but go ahead and make your other 2 points.
Looking at people who lived through the experiences of the civil rights movement, if someone tells me I'm voting for Obama just because he's black, knowing what all of that entailed and why a lot of the things I'm able to do today are because of people like that whose shoulders I stand on, I have no reason to question that. Mm-hmm. Now, people in my demographic, and I won't say how old I am, but people...
Well, give us a range. You're in your mid-30s?
In my mid-30s.
Okay.
If they come to me and they say, well, I'm voting for President Obama because he's black. Okay, stop. Let's take a look at beyond his race, beyond the fact that he and I look alike, which I've got a few shades on him. But besides the fact that we look alike, let's talk about the issues. You know, for people in my demographic, to base your vote just on the point that he's black, I'm black, that's throwing out a whole lot of things that frankly affect you a lot more than the color of your skin. And I think it's unfortunate that people my age, some younger, some older, do miss that point. It's not just about skin color, but at the same time, it's wrong for any Republican to stand up and say, you know what, he's just doing it because he's black. Well, it helped if we actually went out and actually tried to win the black vote, but that may be another show.
And then you said you had 3. Who's the third group of African Americans?
You have those who voted for him because he was black. Most of those are older. Mm-hmm. You have people who do support him on policy, who look at everything and say, yes, I stand for what he stands for. Okay, that's a discussion we can have. And then you have the people who don't really know one way or the other. They're just these are the more independent people who are kind of looking at everything and then forming a decision.
But isn't there a part of the Republican base also that is voting against him because he's black?
Unfortunately, that base does exist. There are people who are voting for Mitt Romney just for the sheer fact that President Obama is black, and they don't like that. And it would be intellectually dishonest of me to not sit here and say, oh, no one on the Republican Party votes for race, votes based on race. Yeah, we do it too. We do it. The Democrats do it. Everyone, racism is not... It's not conditioned to one specific party. It's all across the spectrum.
Vivian, you want to respond?
I think the thing that made me so sad about Sununu to try to reduce this man to his race, this man who served our country admirably, who was a part of the Bush administration, to say that he only supported Barack Obama because they were both black. I'm waiting, like some of the others who mentioned it on Twitter, when Bloomberg endorsed the president yesterday, for Sununu to say, well, they're both Jewish, because that's about how crazy such a statement was. The problem that we have fundamentally is that those kinds of statements don't get challenged by the people who need to challenge them. You and I can sit here and we can agree that that was not a credible statement to make. But until the Republican Party stands up and says that kind of statement is not credible and is not something that we embrace, instead, what do? Sununu is probably the number one spokesperson for Romney right now. And so that sticks to Romney, whether he wants it to stick to him or not. So the bottom line is that within the party, when you have something like that come up, there has to be a response from the party itself, from the party leadership, to say, no. We're not going to reduce Colin Powell, of all people, to simply the fact that he's black.
Mm-hmm. I am curious, Coby, from the perspective of an African American who is Republican, when you hear something like this and you don't see the party stand up and say it's wrong, how do you counsel that in terms of your beliefs?
That's something I've always had to balance. When I look at things like that and I see them happening, a part of me wants the Republican Party to stand up and say, hey, you shouldn't be saying that. But unfortunately, given the history of my party, a part of me has unfortunately come to not expect it. I don't expect anybody to come rushing to the defense of Colin Powell when, in many ways, we've drummed him out of the party for endorsing Obama in 2008 and for some other stances he's taken. So there's always a balancing act for me. Okay, how much of the party's orthodoxy am I really required to stick to? Because at the end of the day, be I Republican, be I Democrat, I'm still a black man in America. That entails positive, that entails negative. And so there is a responsibility, at least for me on my level, to say, hey, you can't say that, especially when we do little to target the black community. You know, I heard Mitt Romney's first radio ad on 95.7 about 2 days ago. We've been at this for the better part of at least a year. Why are we just now waking up and saying, oh, yeah, there's black people we have to talk to? We should have been doing that long before. Mm-hmm. And when we miss things like that, it doesn't give us, it's a large reason as to why in some aspects in the black community, we don't have the credibility that we should have.
If you're just joining us, we're talking politics with Democratic pundit Vivian Paige and Coby Dillard, Vice Chairman of the Republican Party of Norfolk. You can join the conversation at 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Kenny joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Kenny. You're on the air.
Oh, yes. How you doing?
Okay.
Morning, everyone. Romney, I don't know how. I've never seen a campaign ran like this that just, I know all of them tell lies, but let's go real fast. He's a chameleon. If he's in Northern Virginia, he's saying that he's for abortion rights on the circumstance. But if you go out, when my daughter go to school out of Radford, they're playing another one against President Obama for the same thing. And then he's also running an ad in Ohio saying that Chrysler is moving Jeep to China to manufacture. Okay. And now you got people who a couple weeks ago, the chairman of GM was on his side, blasting the president about the jobs last month, I think it was. And now he's going against him. It's ridiculous.
So you're talking about the ads and so forth. Let's get a response from our callers, and thanks for calling, Kenny. You want to take that first, Coby?
When I look at all these political ads, and this is a story that recently came up, I kind of feel like the 4-year-old girl who is sick of Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. It's just at the end of the day, It's just like, oh, guys, come on, another ad, really? But if I address specifically what he said, first of all, Mitt Romney has been pretty consistent in the fact that he is against abortion with certain exceptions. He's not one of the, for lack of a better example, he's not one of the Todd Aikens of the world. I know he's in my party, but that was a dumb statement. He's not one of those Republicans. He has said, yes, there are times when abortion is necessary, for lack of a better term. He has been pretty consistent on that point. And as far as other points, I think his big thing is to show, look, we've got all of the, if I look specifically at what he said about China, we have these jobs that have been going out the door to China. One, because of outsourcing. Two, because we don't have the education resources here to prepare people for those jobs. And those are two things he'd like to begin working on. Getting Americans trained so that they're able to take these jobs and be able to fill them here, and getting companies to realize, yes, American workers are back. American workers are capable. You can get the job done here. Let's go ahead and make that happen.
I think that to say that he has been consistent on abortion ignores much of his earlier ideas about what he did say, run for governor and ran for Senate in Massachusetts on being pro-life. But these ads related to Jeep and Chrysler and GM have taken on a life of their own, and the Romney campaign continues to double down by saying that these jobs are going to China. This is in the face of the CEOs of these corporations saying, no, you misread the information. We are not taking jobs from the United States and sending them to China. We're not doing that, so please stop saying it. But they keep saying it. So one of the things that you have to consider is that a lot of political advertising, which drove me crazy during the storm when I was watching television. I was like, oh my gosh, But a lot of the political advertising has just a little kernel of truth, and the rest of it is just made up stuff to try to convince people who are not necessarily as well informed to believe that. And it did scare those auto workers in Ohio when they heard that their jobs were going to China, and that's why the pushback has been so strong.
And that's one of the things that always concerns me about the election cycle, especially being in a key battleground state, because we're inundated, and I don't know how people who really don't follow this stuff like we do, how they make up their mind, because you hear one thing, then you hear something else, and I'm wondering, will the electorate be smart enough and engaged enough to really dig through it and figure it out?
I don't know that if you were basing how you're going to vote on watching television ads, that you would be able to come to a conclusion. The only thing that happens with the TV ads is, as I said, almost all of them have a kernel of truth in them. Almost. Not all of them, but almost all of them have a kernel of truth. What you end up doing is using party as a proxy, and I don't think that's the right answer. I don't think that you should say, okay, I'm going to look at this ad and I'm going to throw out everything in this ad on the basis of the fact that it was put up by or in favor of a Republican candidate or by or in favor of a Democratic candidate. We have a responsibility as voters. We have a responsibility to become as well informed about candidates and campaigns and issues as we possibly can, and not rely on the proxy of party as being how we're going to vote.
Okay.
Let's be honest. If we were basing our vote on the fact of what's being shown in these ads, I don't think we'd vote for either of these guys.
And that's the whole point of negative advertising. Yeah. The whole point of negative advertising is to scare people and keep them at home. So the idea is not to inform. The idea is to get people to stay at home, and therefore only the base of the parties end up coming out.
Well, but we all want everybody to come out to the polls on the 6th. Dan joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Dan. You're on the air. Oh, sorry. I guess Dan disappeared. So sorry. Let's continue with our conversation then. Apparently we're having some problems with our phones. So a question in terms of Michelle Obama is in town. Bill Clinton's coming to town with the president, not to town, but to Virginia later on. Romney is all of a sudden going to Pennsylvania. I mean, how much will these last minute visits mean and make a difference?
At this point, I think for both candidates, it's a matter of getting your supporters fired up, getting them in one spot so that on Tuesday, everybody's excited and ready to go. Most of the people who are showing up at these rallies, their minds are already made up. They have been for a very long time. At this stage, it's all about voter mobilization, motivation, and turnout. That's where we're at now.
It's about GOTV. First Lady will be in Hampton today.
It's actually going on.
Getting ready to go on this right now.
Ready to start now.
The President Clinton is coming to Chesapeake tomorrow. Romney, of course, was here last night. There will be the moves are now about shoring up, particularly in states where, like Virginia, where we don't have early voting, and this is a critical piece. Is that we look at what's going on in Florida, we look at what's going on in Ohio, we look at all these other places and go, what's with all this early voting? Virginia, we don't register by party. Virginia, we don't have early voting. We have in-person absentee voting with an excuse. Okay? If you don't have an excuse, if you don't fit into... Let me just read. And the 117, I think it's 17 excuses. If you don't have one of those 17 excuses, then you have to show up on Tuesday. So this is what it's about, particularly in a state like Virginia that doesn't have early voting. And I believe Pennsylvania also does not have early voting.
Pennsylvania and Virginia are the only two.
So when you don't have early voting, then what you're doing is GOTV. You're trying to rally the folks, get out the vote, rally the folks to show up on Election Day.
Let me apologize to our listeners if you're trying to call in to the show, and to those of you who were on hold. Apparently, our phone lines have gone down, so I guess you guys have gotten everybody all riled up. But we're working hard to restore phone service, but we'll continue our conversation. So who's going to win Virginia? Coby. Let
Coby, she called
start.
on you.
If I take the entire ticket, I believe that Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, George Allen, Scott Ridgell, Randy Forbes,
straight down party line.
Straight down the party line, including Dean Longo, who's running against Bobby Scott in the 3rd District. Be nice. I believe we're all going to be victorious on Tuesday. Now, it's a number. There's, of course, numbers that come into play. Scott Ridgell will win overwhelmingly. Randy Forbes will, of course, win overwhelmingly. Dean Longo, his victory, if his victory doesn't come in an outright victory for him, I think his victory will focus on the fact that he's actually gone into the community and talked to people there. Yes, Bobby Scott is well known in the community. He has a lot of ties there. But for Mr. Longo being a Republican, what he'll gain in, of course, I hope he wins. I would really love to see a replacement for Bobby Scott. But if he doesn't, if the numbers at the end of the day aren't there, he can be able to point to his campaign and say, you know, I went out into the community. I didn't just throw the standard Republican stones at Bobby Scott. I actually went into the community, talked to people, found out what they needed that they weren't getting from Bobby Scott, and tried to build my campaign around that. But at the end of the day, I think the Republicans were going to do well on Tuesday.
Vivian, I guess you might have a different point of view.
Just slightly. The Virginia is very, very close for the presidential race. Where it's not close is for the Senate race. And I believe that what you're going to see is that Tim Kaine is going to win the Senate race by about 5 points. In doing so, that means that President Obama wins Virginia again. Certainly not by the margin before. I'm figuring 1 to 2 points that he wins Virginia. As far as the Virginia's 11 congressional races, the most competitive congressional race that we have in Virginia is here in the 2nd Congressional District, which covers a little bit of Newport News, a little bit of Hampton, the Eastern Shore, and a little bit of Norfolk, city of Virginia Beach. Okay, so it is the most competitive of the 11 races that we actually have in Virginia. If there's going to be an upset, that's the place it takes in Virginia, is that Paul Hirschfeld wins and defeats Scott Ridgell. That's the only place. All 10 other races, unfortunately, I think are going to end up being the exact same as what we have right now. Shored up, of course, by the recent redistricting that made the districts all either, if they were represented by a Republican, they're more Republican than they were. If they were represented by a Democrat, which there's 2 of them or 3 of them, then they're more Democratic than they were before. This is what happens when we go through redistricting, that the parties actually don't do anything for us. They do something for them.
Respond to Coby's posit that Bobby Scott's going to lose. That's
sorry.
a response.
That is her response.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to laugh. But Bobby Scott is going to win the 3rd Congressional District because the district is the only majority district we have, and it is more minority and more Democratic than it was before redistricting. Therefore, his win will be so overwhelming that I would be surprised if Longo gets 25% of the vote.
Longo will get at least 30.
See, I know he says that.
At least 30.
I'm willing to go up to 28, but that's it.
He's run, of the recent Republican challengers, he's run the strongest campaign out of all of them.
Okay. Our phones are back. Paul joins us from Williamsburg. Hi, Paul. You're on the air.
I have a concern about whether or not Romney, if he gets elected, will be governing as a president or as a leader of his party, where the party governs the country. Countries such as People's Republic of China are run by a party and not by a president, even though they have the structure of a president and a Congress and a courts. There's no power, and the power rests behind the scenes with party members and party leaders.
Okay, let's get a response from our pundits here. Coby, you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. There's no governing party in America, and that's the first thing to take. If I look at what President Obama has done over the last 4 years, the first two of that, he had a majority in the House and a majority in the Senate. He could have done whatever he wanted to do at that point. Now, he chose not to. He chose to at least try to work with Republicans. I will give him credit for that. The Republicans looked and said, your policies that you are putting forth aren't in the best interest of our country, and so there was a disagreement. And I think when Mitt Romney does get into office, he's going to have a Republican majority in the House. I believe we'll take the Senate as well. So there's not a need for him to govern as, I am Mitt Romney, the Republican president of the United States of America. At the end of the day, the president is representative of not just his party, but those who disagree with him as well, and those who claim no party affiliation.
Vivian, you want to respond?
I think that, and again, this gets back to the politics versus the governing that I quite often go to because of the fact that there is a big difference between politics and governing. First of all, I would like to point out that while the president had a majority in both the House and the Senate in his first 2 years, that he had a large blue dog contingent in the House that fought him as much as the Republicans did. So I think it's almost a misnomer to say he had the majority. But I do believe that Republicans and Democrats both love this country. Where they differ is on their approach to governing and what they consider the role of government should be. So what you will have if you have a Republican a Republican president versus a Democratic president is a difference in approach. It means that they look at what is the role of government in our lives and how should that be affected. And if you kind of break that all down, then it's not that Romney's going to listen to the party. It's that Romney is a Republican and therefore approaches government differently. His perspective on government is different than what Barack Obama's is. Barack Obama is a Democrat. He's going to have a different perspective.
So I have a question for both of you then, and we only have about 4 minutes left in the segment. If Romney wins the presidency, what will he do you think, Coby, and then Vivian too? I'll ask you both on both sides. What do you think he will do to reunite the country? Because right now it seems like there's a lot of division in terms of political party.
There is a lot of division. I remember when Barack Obama was first elected, there was this whole 52% versus 48% thing where the 52% of people in America who voted for President Obama came back and said, you know what, let's get over this past election season and let's try to come together. And the 47% essentially said, no, that's not going to happen because of the way you treated President Bush. I would like to believe that we as Americans are past that point now, and even after this campaign season, which has been, no matter where you sit, it's been ugly. I think the best thing for Mitt Romney to do is to come out and say, okay, look, the campaign is over. Whatever bad things were said about me, whatever bad things were said about President Obama, whatever bad things the Republicans and Democrats have thrown back and forth at each other, we're done with that. It ends today, and the business of governing, as Vivian said, actually begins today. And I think his first steps will show that, okay, we're past the partisanship angle of this. It's time to get down to the work of actually being in charge and moving this nation back into a recovery.
I'll never forget watching John McCain 4 years ago when this woman at one of his town hall meetings stood up and said bad things about Barack Obama, and he stopped mid-sentence and said, no, ma'am. He said, no, ma'am. Mr. Obama is a fine man and he loves America just like I do, or something to that effect, right? Mm-hmm. That's what leadership is about. At the end of the day, it's all about 100% of America. Even the 48% that voted against you, you still represent them. So you have a responsibility in leadership to do everything in your power to try to bring people together and try and let it be said from the very beginning, this is not a Republican America or a Democratic America. It is an America. And so therefore, let's put all this stuff aside, as Coby said. Let's put aside all the crap that we talked about and go down the field and make America as good as we can make it be.
Okay, we've got about a minute left, both of you, in terms of voting. What do you want to tell people, Coby?
Bring an ID. At its most basic, understand what you have to bring to actually show up to the polls. Because, again, we're past the point of arguing, well, do we need these voter ID laws? Do we not? We're past that. It's time to vote. Make sure you have the appropriate ID, whatever that is. And there's a list of them. I know the State Board of Elections has posters. They're running TV ads. They're running radio ads. Bring your ID.
Okay. And I would say, Vivian? Look, please don't forget the other people who are on the ballot. We've got down ticket races in 3 of our localities in Hampton Roads. We've got Virginia Beach, Suffolk, and Portsmouth that are also electing city council members and those folks. So please consider learning about them too.
That's Vivian Paige, political pundit on the Democratic side. Coby Dillard, vice chairman of the Republican Party of Norfolk. Thank you to both of you, and everybody go out and vote on November 6th, and we will be right back. And welcome back. Again, we apologize to those of you who could not get through on the phones. We did have some phone difficulty, and then we ran out of time. But I guess that's a good thing. The conversation was really riveting. The duty of protecting the president is a job for only a select few, and that's the major focus of the Secret Service. For former agent Abraham Bolden, this was a huge honor, not only because he was a member of this elite group, but because he was the first African American to work on the White House detail. Lisa Godley has more.
I was very proud, but I also knew that there would be challenges.
As a child, Abraham Bolden experienced firsthand the harsh reality of poverty and crime. It was a journey that would ultimately lead him to a career in law enforcement.
I was born in East St. Louis, Illinois, and I grew up in a lower middle-class family in a poor neighborhood. My father worked 2 jobs in order to support 6 children. Crime was relatively prevalent. And as a young child, I was always looking and trying to wonder why these conditions existed. And I knew that there had to be an answer to that problem. So after I graduated from Lincoln University, I pursued a career in police work because I felt that I could make some type of contribution in organizing and limiting the criminality that was surrounding me.
After a few years working on the force, Bolden became an Illinois state trooper. Because of that job, he met a man who changed his life.
I had an opportunity to work with a Secret Service agent, Mr. Fred Backstrom, while I was assigned in Peoria, Illinois. And I talked to Mr. Backstrom about the possibility of becoming an agent. He gave me the okay to file an application, and on October 30th of 1960, I became a Secret Service agent.
Not too long after joining the service, Bolden's great sense of professionalism landed him on a detail where he would meet and eventually work for President John F. Kennedy.
President Kennedy was coming to Chicago in order to thank Mayor Daley for the support that he gave him in the election. And as he came down the steps, I was standing in front of the washroom door, and he stopped in front of me and he smiled. And he asked me if I was a Chicago policeman or a Secret Service agent. I told him I was a Secret Service agent, Mr. President. And he looked at me and he smiled again and asked me if I knew if there had been any other Negroes on the Secret Service detail in Washington, D.C. I told him not to my knowledge, Mr. President, and he asked me surprisingly, would I like to be the first? And I told him, yes, sir, Mr. President.
His happiness would be short-lived with the reality of the world around him.
back in those days in the 1960s and early 1960s, the racial environment in the United States of America was very volatile at that time. People were being lynched, people were being shot. Now, that presented a challenge for me because in being the first African American on the White House detail, I knew that I would have to meet this challenge of racism somewhere along the line.
In his book, The Echo from Dealey Plaza, Bolden writes that he was told to keep his mouth shut after complaining that an FBI warning of a 4-man hit squad planning to kill President Kennedy was being ignored. Bolden says when he traveled to Washington to alert the proper authorities, he was arrested on trumped-up charges and later convicted of accepting a bribe from 2 known counterfeiters. Bolden says after his conviction, one of the witnesses would later confess that the case against him had been fabricated. That would not impact his sentence. Abraham Bolden would spend the next 6 years in prison. In several published reports, the Secret Service has not commented on Bolden's claim, only saying that he was separated from the agency after being convicted of a crime.
They didn't only send me to prison. Once that I got to prison, they tried to declare me insane.
After his release from prison, Bolden worked in the private sector for 35 years before retiring. Now 77, he travels the country lecturing about his time as a member of the White House Secret Service, all the while working to restore his name and his rights. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And if you'd like to learn more about Mr. Bolden's story, his book is titled The Echo from Dealey Plaza, or log on to echofromdealeyplaza.net. Abraham Bolden's story was produced by WHRO interns Eric Moore, a senior at Regent University, and Alexandra Pumphrey, a senior at ODU. Time now for things to view and do in Hampton Roads.
You will be my Saturday love. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Find out all you need to know to help you or a loved one with prostate cancer. Attend the Prostate Cancer Academy tomorrow, Saturday, November 3rd, from 9 until 11 at the Downing Gross Cultural Arts Center on Wickham Avenue in Newport News. Call 827-0488 to register. The Virginia Beach branch of the NAACP hosts its 2012 Freedom Fund Banquet on Sunday, November 4th at the Westin Hotel in Virginia Beach. This year's theme is Freedom is Not Free. The Fight Continues. And the event begins at 6 p.m. For tickets, call 754-5697. Hope in the Cities of Richmond presents a lunch forum featuring Rajmohan Gandhi as guest speaker. The forum is Friday, November 9th from noon until 2 at the Crown Plaza Richmond on Canal Street in the Capitol. Tickets are available. Call area code 804-358-1764 to find out more. The goal of Hope in the Cities is to bring racial understanding and awareness among all people. The UNCF Empower Me Tour is coming to Hampton University on Thursday, November 15th from 8 until 2:30. Free college prep and career success workshops are available, along with celebrities like Lettucey and Boris Kojo. Visit empowermetour.org for details. These and other events are on our website, anotherviewradio.org. And if you missed any part of today's program or you'd like to share this show with your friends and family, you can download the podcast at anotherviewradio.org. Just click on Stream Episode under Final Thoughts on the Election. Next week, the Another View Roundtable on the winners and losers of the 2012 election. And remember, please do your part. Please get out and vote on November the 6th. For producer Lisa Godley, audio engineer Perry Smith, Alexandra Pumphrey, and Eric Moore, who answered our phones when they were working, I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Let's get together again next Friday at noon for Another View.